Welcome to Loud History. Today we delve into the dramatic life of Anne Boleyn, one of England's most controversial queens. From her rise to power to her tragic downfall, Anne's story is one of ambition, love, and betrayal that forever changed the course of English history. Anne Boleyn was born sometime between 1501 and 1507. Most likely in 1501 at Blickling Hall in Norfolk. She was the daughter of Sir Thomas Boleyn and Lady Elizabeth Howard. Her father, an ambitious courtier, was a skilled diplomat who served in the court of Henry VII and later Henry VIII. Sir Thomas Boleyn was a man of intellect and ambition, fluent in multiple languages and well-versed in European diplomacy. His talents earned him key positions as an ambassador, forging ties with powerful courts in France and the Netherlands. His strategic alliances helped elevate the Boleyn family's status, paving the way for Anne's own rise at court. However, his ambition would later make him a controversial figure, as he both benefited from and suffered due to his daughter's dramatic downfall. Her mother, Lady Elizabeth Howard, was from the powerful Howard family, making Anne a relative of the influential Duke of Norfolk. As the daughter of Thomas Howard, 2nd Duke of Norfolk, Elizabeth was well acquainted with court life and the complex web of aristocratic politics. She was known for her poise, refinement, and strict adherence to noble expectations, traits that she passed on to her daughters. Elizabeth played a key role in shaping Anne's early years, ensuring she was well-educated and prepared for the demands of court. This connection to the powerful Howard family would later play a crucial role in Anne's rise and her downfall. Anne had two siblings, her older sister Mary Boleyn and her younger brother George Boleyn. Mary was once rumored to be the king's mistress before Anne's rise to power. Some even speculate that her children could have been fathered by Henry VIII himself. George Boleyn, a skilled courtier and poet, was among Anne's closest allies. The three siblings were raised in an environment where ambition and political maneuvering were necessary for survival. But the ambitions of the Boleyn family would eventually place them at the heart of one of England's most infamous royal scandals. Anne's upbringing set her apart from many noble women of her time. Unlike most English ladies, she was not raised solely in England. In 1513, at around the age of 12, Anne was sent abroad first to the court of Margaret of Austria in the Netherlands. This was a rare and prestigious opportunity as Margaret ruled over the Low Countries and was one of the most influential women in Europe. Anne was exposed to one of the most sophisticated courts of the time, where she learned the arts of diplomacy, conversation, and courtly manners. She studied alongside some of the greatest minds of the Renaissance and was known for her quick wit and ability to hold discussions with scholars and nobles alike. At this time, she was also introduced to early humanist ideas and became fluent in French skills that would later serve her well in the English court. In 1515, at the age of 14, her education continued in France when she joined the household of Queen Claude, wife of Francis III. This move placed her in the heart of one of the most refined and cultured courts in Europe, where she would gain first-hand experience in courtly etiquette and diplomacy. In France, Anne perfected her French language skills, learned the latest trends in fashion, and was immersed in the culture of courtly love and Renaissance thought. She became known for her charm and intelligence, but also for a sharp, almost dangerous wit. These experiences shaped her into a refined and intelligent woman, one whose charisma and grace would later captivate Henry VIII himself. During her time in France, Anne was immersed in an intellectual environment that was increasingly questioning the authority of the Catholic Church. Reformist ideas, particularly those influenced by early Protestant thinkers, were beginning to circulate within the French court, where scholars and courtiers debated issues of church corruption and the need for spiritual renewal. Queen Claude's court, though traditionally devout, was not entirely insulated from these discussions. Anne's exposure to humanist and reformist ideas, combined with her sharp intellect, likely shaped her views on religious matters. Upon her return to England, Anne found a nation still firmly under the authority of Rome, yet beginning to grapple with theological and political tensions. Reformist sentiments were slowly gaining traction among certain scholars, and nobility influenced by early thinkers such as William Tyndale, who advocated for translating the Bible into English and challenging papal authority. Though these ideas were not yet widespread, they laid the foundation for future religious upheaval. Anne's own beliefs aligned with those advocating for an English church free from papal influence, a position that would later make her a powerful advocate for religious reform. However, her stance also placed her in direct opposition to staunch Catholic traditionalists such as Sir Thomas More, making her a controversial and divisive figure in Henry VIII's court. In 1522, Anne returned to England and soon entered the service of Queen Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII's first wife. Her time abroad had transformed her into a sophisticated and striking figure, and she quickly gained attention at the English court. Unlike her sister Mary, who had a reputation for more casual romantic entanglements, Anne carried herself with a calculated poise that intrigued those around her. It was not long before King Henry VIII himself took notice of her. Initially, Henry pursued Anne as a potential mistress, as he had done with other women, including possibly Mary Boleyn. However, Anne refused to settle for such a role. Her ambition and self-respect set her apart. She would not be a fleeting dalliance, but instead aimed for a far greater prize, the throne of England. Anne's relationship with Henry VIII grew increasingly intense. By the mid-1520s, Henry had become infatuated with her, captivated by her wit, charm, and determination. Unlike Catherine of Aragon, who had failed to produce a male heir after many years of marriage, Anne represented a fresh hope for Henry's dynastic ambitions. Yet her refusal to become his mistress forced Henry to consider a radical solution, annulling his marriage to Catherine. This decision would spark a chain of events that reshaped England. Anne encouraged Henry's growing interest in religious reform, subtly supporting ideas that aligned with her own beliefs. She introduced him to reformist texts and thinkers, nudging him toward a break with the Catholic Church, a move that would allow him to divorce Catherine and marry her. By 1527, Henry was determined to make Anne his queen. He sought an annulment from Pope Clement VII, claiming that his marriage to Catherine was invalid due to her previous marriage to his deceased brother Arthur. The Pope, under pressure from Catherine's powerful nephew, Emperor Charles V, refused to grant the annulment. Frustrated, Henry turned to his advisors, including Thomas Cranmer and Thomas Cromwell, who proposed a daring solution: reject papal authority altogether and establish Henry as the head of the English Church. Anne supported this plan, seeing it as both a path to the crown and an opportunity to advance her reformist ideals. After years of legal and political maneuvering, Henry broke with Rome in 1533, declaring himself supreme head of the Church of England. That same year, he secretly married Anne, who was already pregnant with his child. On June 1, 1533, Anne Boleyn was crowned Queen of England in a lavish ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Her triumph, however, was short-lived. In September, she gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth, rather than the son Henry had desperately hoped for. Though Elizabeth would later become one of England's greatest monarchs, her birth at the time was a disappointment to Henry, who remained obsessed with securing a male heir. Anne's position grew precarious as Henry's affection began to wane. Despite her intelligence and influence, she faced mounting pressure to produce a son, while rivals at court, including supporters of Catherine and her daughter Mary, worked to undermine her. Anne's reign as queen was marked by both power and peril. She wielded significant influence over Henry, promoting religious reform and patronizing scholars and artists who shared her vision. Yet her sharp tongue and assertive nature made her enemies among the nobility, who resented her rise from a relatively modest background to the throne. By 1536, Henry's eye had turned to Jane Seymour, a quiet and demure lady-in-waiting who contrasted sharply with Anne's fiery personality. Sensing his shifting affections, Anne's opponents seized their chance. In May 1536, she was arrested and accused of adultery, treason, and even incest with her brother George Boleyn, charges widely believed to be fabricated by her enemies, including Thomas Cromwell, who had once been her ally. Anne's trial was swift and biased. Despite her eloquent defense, she was found guilty and sentenced to death. On May 19, 1536, Anne Boleyn was executed by a French swordsman at the Tower of London. She met her end with remarkable composure, declaring her loyalty to Henry and praying for his soul. Her death marked the tragic conclusion of a life that had upended a kingdom. Historians still debate her legacy. Some view her as a victim of Henry's capriciousness and political intrigue, while others see her as a shrewd influencer who helped pave the way for the English Reformation. Regardless, Anne's daughter, Elizabeth I, would carry forward her mother's intelligence and strength, ensuring that Anne's impact on history endured.